Bama and LSU is on the horizon.
Oklahoma lost Saturday.
It is here. Yeah, a lot of teams exposed. Another tough week for Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Another tough week for the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams.
Yep.
Michigan rescinded their contract offer to Jim Harbaugh. So things not as cool as maybe we thought up in Ann Arbor. And LSU and Bama going to take center stage this Saturday night. And it is feeling off to an early Bama LSU start week. The weather is beautiful this morning as you wake up here in South Louisiana. It feels like football weather. It's always this first Saturday in November that everybody is looking forward to, and it is here, man. LSU is underdogs by 4 points in this game, and I think LSU is sitting in a very sweet spot for rolling into Bryant-Denny on Saturday. We're going to talk all about it this week. Lloyd is here. Stewie is here live on this Monday. Remember, daily we are brought to you by RMB Builders. Rhett Bourgeois and the crew over at RMB taking care of us. They're online at rmb-builders.com. And you can hit them on Instagram at RMB Builders. Custom design home if you want to add on to your current home, if you want to get over and let them check out some of the projects that you need done around the house. Hit them up, rmb-builders.com. Tell Rhett and the crew that you heard it right here on the show. Our phone line is brought to you by Southern Regional Medical Center. That is Charlie Harvey, Jason Ramazan, the crew over there. Remember, real doctors, real solutions. Southern Regional Medical Center bringing you our phone lines every day. And we're live here from our Click Here Digital studios, live on the campus of Click Here Digital every single day, a part of the team. Developing digital marketing plans for you and really changing your bottom line. If you need more website traffic, they can provide that. If you need the phone to ring, they can get the phone ringing. If you need more foot traffic, they can get the door swinging open for you. Get in touch with me, Jordy at clickheredigital.com and online at clickheredigital.com. All right, LSU Bama. Here we go. Into it. Last matchup on CBS. What a ride it's been. We talked a lot about that last week, right? This is really the game back in 2011 that was featured in headline for this primetime matchup, and here on the last year of the CBS and Southeastern Conference contract, it will close out these primetime weekends and games with LSU Bama, following up, I think, a very intriguing Missouri-Georgia game, even though Georgia looked very dominant without Brock Bowers on Saturday. It'll be a tough task for Eli Drinkowitz and Missouri to roll into the hedges, in between the hedges, and try and take off the number one team. But it is an intriguing game when you look at the East, leading in kind of the undercard to the heavyweight fight that is going to be LSU-Bama on Saturday night. As we said, this game is the one that really elevated the brand of the Southeastern Conference. It elevated the brand of both programs in Alabama and LSU, and I think you could argue it probably elevated the brand of college football over the last 13 years. And now going into this one, it's not quite the matchup that it usually is. LSU is rolling in with this high-flying offense, this offense that really seems unstoppable at times, or not really at times, all the time throughout this 2023 edition of college football. And Alabama this year defensively is really improving. They have a couple of players at all levels. Remember Jaheim Oates back in recruiting? I kind of forgot about him, and then watching some of the Bama highlights over the last week. Got that weight down, Coach. I don't know how we did forget about him, but Oates was one of these like freak defensive tackles. Like when he was back in 8th, 9th grade, he was already
6'6", 320.
Right, he was just one of these guys that you knew was going to be a big-time recruit. LSU and Bama were probably the two biggest schools on him early. He ends up at Bama, and he's a problem in the middle. It's going to be a battle between him and Charles Turner when you look just on paper at the size of Oates and the athleticism that he bears. He's probably lost 60 pounds since he's been at Bama. I mean, he was an enormous man. He's still huge. But as far as the anchor over on the defensive line, you've got a guy in Oates who is a big-time just defensive stopper, a plug that, you're going to have to take care of. Turner, who is a veteran and has seen just about everything that the league can provide, he'll have a unique challenge come Saturday night along with this offensive line. We talked to Will Campbell on Friday, and I appreciate the feedback. I was telling Lloyd got some feedback over the weekend as well. I was in New Orleans for the majority of the weekend, and I had numerous people on Saturday just kind of out and about come up and just unprompted, hey, man, I want to tell you that Will Campbell interview is amazing. I had to watch it a couple of times, and I really think it is. I mean, Campbell, of course, an easy subject to talk to, especially when you're talking football. But if you have not checked out or listened to Will Campbell, just kind of breaking down the halfway point of the season and looking ahead to this Saturday, you got to go back and check it out. It's on the YouTube channel. It should be pretty easy to find. Our social media team's done a good job of getting the bites out. Lloyd did a great job on production of getting it out. So hopefully, if you haven't seen it, you can catch it. But if you're looking for it, just search Will Campbell, Jordy Culotta Show on YouTube, and you should be able to find it. We tried to squeeze a little bit out of Campbell on Dallas Turner, and while the big left tackle was very talkative on Friday, he was not in the mood to talk about Dallas Turner for the Tide, and understandably so. This is going to be as big of a matchup. I think College Football Game Day announced that they're going to be on campus Saturday in Tuscaloosa leading into the matchup of LSU Bama, and I think this is going to be an individual matchup that they really break down. Is going to be Turner and Campbell going at it for however long. I do anticipate that Campbell will probably be put over Emory Jones in his first game back. Off of a game and a half injury. We expect Jones to be there come Saturday, but we'll just kind of wait and see what the matchup is. At some point, you'll get Campbell and Turner, and you're talking about two of the best players in college football going at it. Turner could well be the first defensive end taken in this year's draft, and Campbell is on a crash course to be taking the number one offensive lineman in the 2024 draft as his stock continues to just break ceilings with everybody that you talk to. As we addressed with Campbell on Friday, the biggest story of Will this year is that he's gotten a penalty. I mean, and people are freaking out about it.
You'd have thought I gave up 12 sacks.
And it's a great answer if you missed it. But this Alabama defense is going to be a challenge that LSU, this offense, as we said, I believe it to be the best in the country. Believe it to be the best in the country because it's always there. It's always producing. I believe this matchup is something that they've not seen. You talk about those guys like Oates and Turner on the front end of it. You got guys like Caleb Downs, who is a true freshman, on the back end of it, along with Kool-Aid McKinstry, who are going to be two high-end draft picks when they're set to go. McKinstry is a draft-eligible guy now. Caleb Downs is a true freshman who has over 60 tackles and a couple of picks on the season. I mean, he is a big-time player on the back end. So, I mean, this is, from a matchup standpoint, this is about as good as it gets, right? When you're talking about this LSU offense who's got, multiple first-round picks on the field. When you're talking about guys like Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Will Campbell, Emory Jones. Jaden Daniels is pushing for a first-round pick. In my opinion, his stock is continuing to skyrocket. So, this is an NFL scout's dream, as it always is. I'd imagine just like every year, I remember talking to the sports information staff last year, all 32 teams in the NFL were represented in Baton Rouge last year at this game. I'd imagine that all 32 teams will be represented in Tuscaloosa this Saturday night with just scouting passes of just wanting to see these matchups up close, in person. We're going to try and track down Jim Nagy this week, who's the president of the Senior Bowl. Will be a great resource of just the talent on the field in this game. He's over in Mobile, which is the headquarters of the Reese's Senior Bowl. So I'd imagine that he'll probably be in Tuscaloosa come Saturday night. We'll talk to him this week. But a dream matchup, just like it always is here for LSU Bama. Thomas Yorkinson with the $5 super chat. Kelly is one win away from having the 2-year from having the best 2-year start by winning the West twice. Kelly is also 2 L's away from having a worse start than the last 3. It's a great observation, and it absolutely is on the line this weekend for Brian Kelly, LSU, and this program of this is a pivot game for LSU. This will set the tone of the season for LSU, because they are in a not so much in a similar scenario last year where if they do beat Bama, they'll have to win out, right? Like, you're not going to be able to afford to lose to Texas A&M and still go to Atlanta if it kind of works out. Like, I mean, you're just going to have to keep playing for your life every week. And sure, it'll be an enormous spot to beat Alabama on Saturday and really kind of set you sail into a spot where you got different goals now attainable. And I agree with Thomas in the same vein. If you come out and lose this game, where does the season go? Because you've got a couple of matchups in Florida and in Texas A&M that you're going to have to get off the bus for. I mean, you're going to have to show up. You're going to have to be ready to play. And if this game does not work out, you wonder if Kelly can keep the mindset of the team, can keep them focused. But if it does work out, the things that are in play for LSU
are huge.
Oh, they're everything.
It's everything. And
it's
that's
everything. I mean, I would imagine that LSU would probably be the favorite in a 12-team playoff this year. Maybe not with Georgia, but I mean, like, if you're kind of outside looking in, you would think that if in a 12-team playoff, LSU with 4 weeks left in the season is sitting in a spot where their spot is secured. I saw that they went up one place in the AP overnight. They're 13th now, 2 spots in the AP poll overnight, as they were 15 last week during the bye. They're now 13th going into the matchup. You'll also get your first college football playoff rankings come tomorrow night.
Yeah. But I don't think they would be the favorite. You forget about the, Ohio States, Michigans of the world. Now, who knows what ends up with Michigan?
Maybe not a favorite, but
they would make it.
Nobody
would want to face you.
Bet on a dark horse, right?
Right. That would be a great bet to make, and it still is if you want to grab LSU in the future. But all of that is contingent on what happens Saturday. And I know that LSU has always built this game up to where it's your season. And you heard the answer from Will Campbell where it seems like they're already ready, that they could have played that thing yesterday or Saturday. They would have. They want to play this game that badly. But from an outsider's perspective, this is your entire season. And while you may not want to build it up that way, it's impossible to ignore.
No, I agree.
It's just that there's nothing you can do about it. Like, your entire season is kind of hinging on, and it's not a spot LSU hasn't been before. They know that looking into Bama, this is what it's going to be if you played your season the right way, regardless if you were undefeated coming into this game or if you have your back against the wall with 2 losses. This game still, because if you're undefeated and lose to Alabama, it's, they can't hang with an Alabama. They don't deserve to be in the playoff. If you beat the Alabamas of the world, then it's watch out for LSU, even with 2 losses. Don't they deserve to have a seat at the table? Especially if you run through the rest of your season, I guess you still need Ole Miss to trip up at some point, and they're going up against Texas A&M this weekend, but they're not out the gauntlet yet either. But if you get to another shot of LSU wins the West and is in the SEC championship, and you can somehow beat Georgia, who look like any time that you want to push that button and see if Georgia's for real, they answer the call in spades.
No doubt.
But just get it. You just want a chance to play.
Yeah, right. And I mean, but it's still, they still strike no fear in me if I'm LSU. Like, I do look at Georgia, and I think that's one thing that Kirby Smart has done better than just about any coach that I've seen in a big-time program, is that he's always got his dudes ready to play in the biggest games. I mean, like, and like foaming at the mouth ready to play.
He finds excuses to get those guys
Absolutely.
up. He did it with who was the old Florida coach that is now in the booth?
Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen. He heard what Dan Mullen said on the broadcast. He's like, oh, I guess he doesn't like. I heard he didn't like to recruit. Like, right. Because he picked Florida to beat Georgia. He's like, he must not know a lot about recruiting.
Right.
And it's just like Kirby always finds a way to take a shot.
He takes everything personal.
Yes.
Right. Which, I mean, that's what makes Georgia a little different right now. I mean, when you watch them play, I think it's
machine.
It feels very Alabama 4 or 5 years ago. LSU in the mid 2000s, like 2004, 5, 6, when they got off the bus, you just kind of figured they were going to win. That's where Bama is now, but the most impressive, that's where Georgia is now. And the most impressive part of Georgia is that in the biggest games, they throttle you.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how big they tried to make the Kentucky game a couple of weeks ago?
It was over after the kick.
It was over.
Oh, y'all want to play Georgia football?
When's the Tennessee one coming? He's going to find something to make it a big game, and they're going to pummel Tennessee. I felt, last week I was kind of optimistic about the Missouri game. Now I feel like Missouri's walking into they're walking into Hell's Kitchen.
Because Carson Beck's playing better. You would think, you look at the Georgia football team and you're like, well, do you think defense first? Carson Beck kind of has them humming, and eighth-year senior Ladd McConkey walks off the bus, comes back not being hurt. Now he's finally healthy. Goes over 100 yards, gets his first touchdown of the year.
He looked quick.
He split the seam on the Florida defense. Ladd, pick him up and put him down, coach.
He was flying.
You didn't notice that Brock Bowers wasn't there, which is the scariest thing you can say about the Georgia offense.
His backup, number 4.
Looks just like him.
Just like him.
They grew him in a lab.
I was like, who is this?
And if you're Georgia, that's a position that you can afford to miss out on. If it was a edge rusher, quarterback, lockdown corner, something like that, that's when it's noticeable. You could cover up your best player being your tight end and not available. You saw that with, how many times have people tried to get Arik Gilbert on the field, and it doesn't really seem to be a make or break for your team. That's a position where I know how good Brock Bowers is and how much he means to that offense, but if you have skill players the way Georgia does, and now a quarterback that seems to have kind of figured it out, you can cover up a Brock Bowers until the playoffs come, and then I'm sure he'll play.
Right.
It's such a luxury.
It is. That's that is high level recruiting. That is what it looks like, and that's the true difference. It's easy to be arrogant as a head coach when you can look in your locker room and you're like, man, I got pros sitting on the bench. You know what I mean?
4, get in there.
You've not seen Brock Bowers back up yet. It's easy to stay confident. And, like I said, Kirby Smart is the perfect personality to coach a team like this. And right now, he feels like the best coach in college football. If you were to grill me and say, you got to have one coach, one game to win it, I'd take Smart, really. I think that he's...
I'd be a fool not to.
Right now, feels like the best coach in the game. So you'll have a battle of two sidelines again here this week where it feels like a wash again in this game. And that is in year 2 of this LSU-Bama matchup with Brian Kelly walking the sidelines for LSU. That has been the greatest equalizer in this build-up and matchup to me with Brian Kelly now running it. LSU had to cover up their sidelines for 15 years of this matchup, right? Saban knew that LSU could match up with them physically every single year, and at some points were probably better than them in certain positions on just man-on-man. But Saban knew every year that he was going to coach the pants off of LSU. He knew that he was going to run circles around Les Miles. He knew he was going to do the same against Ed Ogeron. And, barring those guys getting, revolutionary players like Joe Burrow or Tyrann Mathieu, he was going to feel like he could win the game. And outside of those two being on the field, he won just about every game. But when you neutralize the sideline in preparation and you had a coach in Brian Kelly who understood what it took to, break down, go at somebody's weakness, be prepared, have your team ready to play, and, know how to mentally approach this game so where it's not the Super Bowl. We're talking about this thing like it's the Super Bowl. I would put my life on the line that Brian Kelly's going to take the podium at lunch today and show you how to really kind of water this thing down so it's not this Super Bowl matchup that we're all anticipating.
But it is.
But really and truly, even Campbell on Friday, a captain of the team, recognized that, look, the noise is a little louder. A little bit more of a build-up to it. So
I think it's okay to recognize that, but you don't want to. What happens with the reason you're concerned about it is what goes into every week after that, right? Because then you start going to the locker room on Monday or Sunday, whatever, and it just doesn't feel the same because you know what you were playing for, and if you don't win, then it becomes all right. And this is what Ed Orgeron did a good job of at some points was being able to refocus, and it was usually Arkansas, and kind of right the ship. Like, that doesn't mean your season's over. You still got to play for, you still got to win, send your seniors out the right way, get a bowl game win, let's reset this thing for the next year. You're playing for more than yourself. But it becomes such a game where all of your aspirations you set out for the beginning of the year are now all on the table. You're all in. And it's just a matter of what kind of cards you're dealt and how you play them. Because, like it or not, we still haven't gotten an update on the defensive backfield, but that's going to be a major factor. And because if you don't have the injuries that you have on the backfield, whether it be Alexander gets healthy or not, we don't know the status of still, like Makai Wingo on the defensive line, you would hope would get out there. I think Emory Jones is off the injury report. He's playing. Like, I think that's what Brian Kelly said. He didn't even list him. So you get some good news there, but it becomes Alabama has a place that they can exploit LSU. Otherwise, it's good on good.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, the defensive back is going to be a huge storyline this week for LSU, obviously, to see who's there, who is going to be making the trip, who's going to be available to be on the field, and for the defensive standpoint, I mean, outside of that, the biggest story for me is Wingo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is that feels.
It's lingering too long.
Yeah, it feels like something's up. I mean, it feels like that is in a situation where it just doesn't feel like it's.
It feels like you'll get that answer.
Like it's trending in the right direction.
Yeah, it feels like you'll get that answer today before you'll get that answer on the cornerbacks room.
Yeah,
you'll get a status update on Wingo, and if he doesn't play, I still feel confident what you've gotten from Jefferson, yeah, and that kind of rotating of D-line that's been pretty good, especially, I'll say it again, since the addition of Pete Jenkins, they've been better. And so you don't have this glaring omission at every spot on the defense, where it was 3 weeks ago, you couldn't stop a nosebleed. You were just hoping that, God, please throw it to the wrong player. Like, somebody run into one. And now it's like, all right, you have the front seven kind of established, and now the back end is getting better, so it's just an unfortunate timing for Alexander to go down the way he did. And if he's back, that at least shores up one side of the football where you can get back to some sense of normalcy on the defensive back room.
Thanks for tuning in to our premium LSU content right here on YouTube. If you want more of it, subscribe below.